I was sitting around with a group of friends and we tried to think, what do we want to do after we graduate? And so people said, Seattle, New York, Boston, I don't know. We were just trying to think of what city we wanted to go to. And so I ended up living in Boston and decided to go to law school. And I came back right after law school. And at that time, the United States Congress had passed legislation that established the Legal Services Corporation, which would establish in every community a legal services program to handle civil cases for low-income people. So Harrisonburg was just starting, and I ended up coming right back to Harrisonburg after law school, and I was director of Blue Ridge Legal Services. At the time, it was really hard to start the program because a lot of the local lawyers didn't really want us to have a legal aid program here. But some of them did, and they were willing to sit on the board and help us get started. So I had to sort of learn how to practice law at the same time that I was trying to run a program. But I remember that once I had a client who came, I don't know how he came to my attention because he was a local prisoner in the local jail, and he said that he had no way of getting any exercise while he was in jail. I actually went to the Virginia Code and looked it up and saw that if you have animals in some kind of animal shelter or any facility like that, you have to have some place where the animals can get out and get exercise. So it was pretty amazing to think that you could incarcerate human beings and not have a place for them to exercise. So I brought a lawsuit against the local sheriff in order to sue our local jail with the claim that it was a violation of basic rights. Naturally, since we were filing a lawsuit against a county sheriff, they were not interested in continuing to give us our local match money so that we could run our program. They threatened to cut off our local match money, and that's when we switched to the all-federal funding, which really saved our program to be able to still exist. And of course, the lawsuit itself was settled, which it should have been, as any lawsuit like that ought to be, because it was pretty clear. When I was 17, I had just graduated from high school at Lancaster Mennonite School, and I was here at home doing a summer job, helping to lift an older woman who was an invalid onto a bedpan at night and back into her bed, and my arm started to ache, and the doctor said, you know, it's probably nothing. It's really bizarre. The doctor said, it's kind of a lump in your arm, but don't worry about it. My mother decided, I'm going to order an x-ray, which is usually what the doctor would do. So she just went into RMH and said, I want this arm x-rayed. And so they x-rayed it and found a lump. So it was a malignant tumor that started in the bone marrow, and they have to operate really, really quickly. So we flew right away out to Mayo Clinic, which was, I guess, the best place to go. And they did a biopsy and had to amputate my arm. So it all happened really, really fast. I thought at the time that my life, you know, that my life was pretty much over in terms of, you know, that I had been sort of struck down in my prime of years, right. Prime of my life. That's how I looked at it then. So it was really hard. It was just incredibly hard. I didn't realize at the time, I was 17 and people think of you as almost an adult. I didn't really understand that it was a cancer that was most likely to recur, that I had like a 10 or 15% chance. When I learned that my chances really weren't very good, by that time a year had passed and my chances were a lot better than they had been. So I probably had like a 50-50 chance at that point. But I remember saying to my mother that I wanted to be anointed with oil because you always hear of that being done, or once in a while you hear, maybe you don't even hear of it anymore. You hear of people being anointed with oil when they are old and about to die. as a kind of a plea for healing. But I said, I think I'm going to be healed, and I wanted to be anointed with oil. And so my uncle, who was a bishop at that time, came. Wonderful, wonderful man. And he had just had these enormous hands, and he put these enormous hands on my head with oil and prayed. And so I always feel like I should say that anytime I tell people about what happened, because I was being healed. And so obviously I made it. After 5 years of x-rays every now and then, they consider that you've made it. So, but the fact is that having one arm is not really much of a limitation. It certainly would be if I was a basketball player, or if I had to type, or other things that obviously for some people it would make a huge difference. So if you're not doing things that require real manual work, the ordinary daily living is something that you easily learn to do with one hand. A lot of things that... So I don't feel like there's anything I can't do because of having one hand. There's some things that are a little less convenient, but it really hardly counts as a handicap.